It's going to be some
Dreidel,
crazy...
dreidel, dreidel. I made you out of clay.
Hi, I'm Gabe.
Hi, I'm Randi.
Hi, I'm Annie Kroll.
Hey, welcome back, Annie.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be back in Columbus. Thank you.
Okay, so NARAL started off the new year with a new endorsement. We are endorsing
Hillary Clinton.
Hey.
Yes, so this was Tuesday morning that we all found out that National NARAL Pro-Choice America, along with the other affiliates, are endorsing Hillary Clinton for president because she has been a longtime champion on women's rights issues and girls issues. So I'm excited for it, and I think it was a good choice for NARAL.
Yeah, I agree. Hillary's a terrific candidate. We had a lot of our allies that were big supporters of her in 2008.
Yeah.
She was a fine candidate then. And now she's, the leader of the movement on the Democratic side. Hopefully we'll take down whoever comes out of the Republican scrum.
I think whoever comes out of there, she will beat them handedly. I mean, we still have another almost year, but yeah, because they're crazy. So, yeah, I think she'll have no problem beating any of them.
Annie's over there making faces. Annie's a bit loopy today.
It was a long drive.
Yeah, it is a long drive.
So after the announcement came out that we were endorsing Hillary, the national president, Ilyse Hogue, she's the head of the actual endorsement came from NARAL Pro-Choice America PAC.
Yes.
They're the ones that endorse. Ilyse is the head of the PAC. She published an article that was on Medium and listed top 5 reasons to support Hillary. So Ilyse gets That's What She Said of the week for her explanation of why Hillary is awesome. Her top 5 reasons are that Hillary has shown that all of these issues are a proven priority for her. They cite the speech that Hillary gave in Beijing in 1995.
Yeah.
Talking to the Chinese about how they, need to make women's rights and recognize them as a human right. Her reason number 2 is women are the economy, stupid. She points out that 6 in 10 women who seek abortion are mothers trying to do the right thing for their families. Women are breadwinners in many of these households.
Or just on unpaid labor alone of motherhood and the emotional labor. And so.
Exactly.
Big part of the economy.
Absolutely. Reason number 3 was a woman's place is in the White House.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I agree.
We keep hoping anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Who was telling me, this might have been Kelly talking to me the other day saying that it was Kelly talking about how they elected a woman president in Pakistan 20 years ago, and we still haven't. And this is a place where they shoot girls for going to school, but they still were able to elect a female president, and we haven't done it.
Right.
And yeah, that's really, really crazy.
Yeah. You think about Pakistan, you think about Indira Gandhi, in India, Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel, there's tons of other, countries with good and bad human rights records that have all had women, leaders. There's no reason why the U.S. shouldn't.
Exactly.
I did like Indira Gandhi, though she was quite a bit controversial.
Yeah, well.
She makes me smile. But not Margaret Thatcher. I do not smile at Margaret Thatcher, no.
Right. So there were women right and left.
Yeah.
On both sides of the political spectrum.
Sure.
So
we are not a monolith after all.
No.
Reason number 4, she says, is silence is surrender. And I think she's basically saying that we can't be silent on issues of abortion rights. I think this speaks to a lot of the effort to reduce stigma in the country. That's a definite reason. And then number 5, she says the stakes are too high. We think about the Supreme Court. We've got Whole Woman's Health versus Cole coming up this year as a major landmark decision, potentially. The next president is going to nominate the next 1 or 2 Supreme Court justices. So that's, too big to risk.
Exactly.
So we need a strong president that'll be able to do that.
Yeah. No, I agree. Notorious RBG. I love her. But she is getting up there though. So she's got to retire eventually.
Yeah.
We need a contingency plan.
True.
Yeah.
So the next one will be very important because, like you said, they'll be nominating the next people because I guess technically the younger people, I'll use air quotes, on the bench are mostly conservatives.
Right.
It's the liberals who are getting up in age.
Right. Well, I mean, they are, there are several liberals getting up there. But Obama had, some very successful Supreme Court justices who, are doing a terrific job.
True.
Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor. So if we want those sort of, not necessarily, but possibly female justices on the bench that can represent, a real voice for reproductive health care and the need to protect that in the courts.
Yeah.
Then we need a president who shares those values.
Exactly.
So after the announcement came out, there was a decent amount of questioning from Bernie Sanders supporters. The national office was quick to point out that Bernie is a terrific advocate. He's got 100% voting record. So, this is nothing against Bernie, but the office felt that, Hillary was the best candidate to protect and defend. And as Jessica Valenti pointed out after Hillary released a response statement, she used the phrase to advance abortion rights in the country. So not just play defense, but go on the offense and really take an aggressive stance. So,
yeah. I didn't know that Hillary was the one who made it possible for Plan B to become over the counter.
Was she?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah. The more you know. I didn't know that until Kelly told me the other day. So that's an awesome thing because we need that.
Yeah. Our executive director, Kelly Copeland, is a massive Hillary Clinton fan.
Yeah. She's
just rabidly Hillary, which is awesome. So,
yes.
Okay. So that's great. And then yesterday, speaking of a different leader of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
But related to Hillary contextually.
Yeah. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was interviewed in the New York Times.
Yes. So I personally like this because source-wise, the question that was posed to Debbie Wasserman Schultz of the DNC was done so by Anna Marie Cox, who I am a big fan of political pundit-wise because of her being highlighted on Rachel Maddow. And I actually was researching this from another website from another person supported by Rachel Maddow. And I would credit my, geeky Rachel Maddow crush for being so well supplied by the liberal media for providing the research behind what we're about to talk about. Anyway, okay, I had to have a geeky moment for my political pundit crushes. Anyway, so Anna Marie Cox was talking to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and she wanted to talk about the generational divide amongst women, millennials, and older women in their support of Hillary, because a lot of younger folks are supporting Bernie Sanders more. And we're seeing a lot of millennial women in particular turn towards Bernie as opposed to Hillary. And Anna wanted to know why. So she asked Debbie about the generational divide. And rather than talk specifically about the generational divide in terms of Hillary Clinton, what Debbie Wasserman Schultz ended up doing is going on a sort of different tangent and citing millennials as being complacent post Roe v. Wade in being able to defend and in actively working towards fighting for our reproductive rights and access to abortions. Since Roe v. Wade, she cited us as being the most complacent age group in terms of the choice platform specifically. And I don't know if that meant that choosing to support Bernie means that you're like less of a diehard pro-choice advocate, or what she exactly meant, but she did not drop Hillary's name or Bernie's name. She simply was quoted as citing millennials as one of the key non-components in how we've seen this slow rolling back of our rights since Roe v. Wade. And a lot of people in our circles were obviously very upset about that, especially folks like me and folks similar to in my same age group who are also millennials who work for NARAL and other organizations who have been mostly organizing with millennials. Like all of my volunteers are millennials, except for a handful of folks in our knitting circle. But, you know, so the response now nationally, we've seen sort of grow quite quickly in a short amount of time. We have the Dear Debbie hashtag. Twitter sort of exploded with really indignant reproductive rights and reproductive justice advocates, especially folks who work for reproductive justice issues who are specifically disillusioned with the Democratic Party as not having enough of a backbone to be in the offensive and not just the defensive in regards to abortion rights and restrictions that we're seeing both nationally and state by state. So that happened. And we had, you know, we had our own thoughts here at NARAL, and I, you know, spoke to colleagues over the interwebs who were also feeling similarly disgruntled. And it's hard when you're working in support of Democratic candidates on a choice platform to feel incentivized if your DNC chair is saying that actually, no, your whole age group is really inactive, because that means we're doing work and you're not hearing us, and there's a disconnect there, and that, I don't know, that's either poor organizing on my part or
well, you know, I went to the CLIP conference a few weeks ago in Florida, and that's a reproductive justice conference. So like 95% of the women that were there, maybe more like 97%, were women of color, and also were mostly young. So I was just like, this is a really, like you said, disconnect, that she doesn't realize that there's a lot of young women doing this work. And I would say probably my volunteer base here and in Southern Ohio, it's like a mixture. It is a lot of older women, but it's a lot of younger women as well, especially here in Columbus. And then like in Athens and Cincinnati, I've done some organizing on the campuses. So I just think that they don't realize, because maybe we're not out there like, however, I don't even know what she wants them to be out there doing specifically, but
there must be some kind of disconnect due to a, you know, like some sort of larger generational issue, because how can we be so invisible otherwise?
And she's not the only one that says that, though.
No.
Lots of other, you know, older women are like, well, why are we never see any young women like at like meetings and stuff? And it's like, well, just because they didn't want to come to this particular meeting doesn't mean that they're not doing stuff.
Right. And I think that cross-generationally, people's preferred methods of organizing are shifting and changing all the time. Like, I mean, we're so accustomed to this new social media-based organizing platform.
We had abortion, which was mostly on like Twitter and Facebook. And I feel like that was a lot of young women, but like you said, it's like more social media stuff rather than going to like this meeting or this like rally or whatever.
Yeah. I think the formats are different. And I feel like this sort of socialization amongst the different generations has affected our organizing disparities, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right. What she said, I don't think it was helpful at all. I was surprised though at the kind of the size and immediate anger of the backlash against it. First off, it drives me nuts. You know, Anna Marie Cox, great journalist. There's nothing against her. The style of these articles I can't stand, because all you get is a one sentence response from somebody, completely context free. And it's not that this is just the way that this writer wrote this. This is kind of typical in all subject areas where, you know, there's one sentence in an article and you don't get to actually hear the person say it. You don't get to see what they said before or after that. It's just, here's this one sentence, and that alone sounds terrible.
Yeah.
So these kind of drive me nuts. Everybody gets up in arms because somebody said something and then there's a giant article, but only one sentence. I feel like what she's probably trying to say is that this is a movement and we need more people in the movement.
Yeah.
Which is a positive thing to say. She said it in a very, you know, a way that's easy to misunderstand, which makes it a bad statement by a politician. But we need more people in the movement. You know, it's not that the people that are in the movement now are doing something wrong.
Yeah.
It's just we want to continue to build.
Yeah.
Sure. And amplify more kinds of voices than have previously had access to the spaces we've created, I think. And I think now that we're in this younger sort of like millennial centric generation of organizing, we have a lot of fracturing of ideologies within our sort of feminist spaces. So, to me, that's okay. I think to the older generation, though, they're afraid because if we don't have sort of one united feminism, the way we sort of conceptualized what the feminist movement was going to mean from second wave and onwards, I think there's a fear that if we can't unite all women, that will be sort of our agendas will sort of be broken down and picked off and ignored, or you know will not be taken seriously because we're women and we don't have access to the same public space and. There's like all these sorts of cultural issues behind that as well. And we don't have to get into all that, but I think largely that is perhaps a motivation for those kinds of quotes and things that, end up becoming reactionary, but I think come from a place of we are faltering. Our mission is sort of skewered. We need more strength behind our efforts, in and around feminist issues and especially abortion rights and reproductive freedom issues. But now, you like in Cleveland right now, I'm having a hard time getting volunteers when there's issues like Tamir Rice and things that are sort of encompassing not just of reproductive justice related issues, but all sorts of issues. And I feel like young people now have to choose how they spend their time. Those of us who are choosing to spend all of our time doing reproductive access and health maybe have a different mentality and idea about what needs to be a priority in our activism and in our actions. And I feel like naturally then you'd have some sort of generational divide, and it's our job as organizers to bridge the gap in regards to abortion rights activism in Ohio. But I think it's reflective of a more national trend where we are fracturing and having smaller identity groups based on a more concrete agenda, based on a couple key issues that affect a lot of kinds of problems in our society, like racial justice and economic justice issues and things like that. So I get, the Debbie quote, I get it. And I also get that media is very reactionary and incendiary. And it is frustrating to have that sort of hinder maybe even the generational, the cross-generational dialogues that we have going on. So, I'm not going to spend too much energy being angry at this, but also just kind of be extra reflective about what that means for us as organizers and how we sort of need to address a movement and reach all these people in their fractured segments. And if we're not uniting them, if we can still have a movement and still harness people's energies and build relationships, I think that's okay. And we just need to navigate what that new space is going to look like, especially as we encounter more millennials who are coming of age and starting to organize and be more passionate and also disillusioned with how things are, and especially how the older generation is doing things. So yeah, those are my 2 cents. Or 5, I don't know. I went on for a while.
That's okay. I feel like we've heard a similar message that's been put into a more helpful language from Connie Schultz, who's roughly of the same generation as Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I don't know how old either of these women are, but they're not millennials. I think it's safe to say.
Connie's 58. I don't know how old Debbie is.
But Connie has been very active in encouraging young women or women of any age to run for office. And I think she's done that in a way that's very constructive. So, I think there's definitely a way of pitching this to younger generations, and that says, hey, join this movement. Here are these opportunities. Encourage other women.
Mhm.
It's not phrased like, oh, there's so much complacency. It's more of a positive message that I think there's the opportunity to
There's
build
an
on.
ask, yeah,
Yeah,
and a call to action,
right?
Not just a criticism and like a flat.
Right. But I mean, this also kind of reads as that whole, kids these days,
Right.
they don't have it, as bad as we had it, and
Mm-hmm.
which, I think is something that you're always going to have with people. It's just those younger generation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you said it, kind of with the air of believing what you were saying. Mr. Curmudgeon.
Kids these days.
Kids these days.
Yeah, well. Okay, so the New York Times editorial board met with John Kasich and several other candidates. So switching from people who are allies that aren't as helpful as they could potentially be to people who are just straight up assholes.
Yeah.
Kasich met with the New York Times editorial board. The Times put out a public call for people to submit questions to Governor Kasich. They also did the similar tactic with other candidates because they were meeting with basically the entire slate.
Mm-hmm.
Their thing was, if you commented on the blog post that they put up, they were going to pick one of the comments from readers out of a hat, and then the candidate would get asked that question on camera.
Okay.
So we haven't seen which question Governor Kasich got. Presumably that will come out after they release an endorsement of one of these GOP guys. Hopefully here within the next week or two, we'll get to see what came of this. But we were able to read the comments that were on the blog post. So we got to see what other readers were submitting. There was an enormous number. There was 243 comments posted to this thing. Almost all of them were questions, since that's what they were asking for.
Mm-hmm.
Many of these questions were about Kasich's anti-women, anti-abortion agenda.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of impressive. The top vote getter, and unfortunately, clicking like on these comments didn't mean that question would go to the candidate. It was drawn at random. But the top vote getter was one that is several paragraphs long, talking about the Kasich agenda. In 2011, there were 16 surgical abortion providers. By 2013, the number dropped to 14. And now we're down to 9. And so they're asking, do you believe in the separation of church and state principle? Are you running for pastor-in-chief or commander-in-chief? Some of these questions were really well written. Why have you spent most of your term focusing on dismantling women's health in Ohio instead of focusing on job creation?
Good question.
Yeah. One of the questions submitted was by a guy from Columbus named Gabriel. I wrote, the AP reported your office was crafting abortion restrictions as early as 2011, but when you signed those restrictions into law, you claimed you were following the will of the people. Why haven't you been honest about your agenda to end abortion access in Ohio? So I think
there is no will of the people when you sneak it into the budget. You didn't have any discussion about it. There was no vote on it. So don't say some will of people bullshit. And it was put into the budget and you signed it. You wouldn't even come out and talk to people because we were there outside the door and you had to go through the back door like the coward that you are. So no, like.
She's calling you out, John. She's calling you out.
You can find me on Twitter at Candy Randi. I'll have many more questions for you, John Kasich. But I doubt you will because, like I said, you're a coward. I mean, yeah. Okay. I mean, do it. I mean, at least if you're going to do it, have some balls about it and do it. But don't say, oh, this is the will of the people.
Right.
When you snuck it in there.
Right.
Like, that's a total lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he's gets on my nerves. If that's not obvious. I'm happy that they did this though. Those are some really, I'm glad that you know, a lot of people are asking those kind of questions because those are the questions they should be asking,
Right.
because he's the most anti-choice person running. And to be the most anti-choice person running in that field of people,
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah. He
You
has
gotta
the worst record.
Yes. You
Yeah.
got to be way out there on it. Like, specifically, this is my issue. I don't want abortion to be legal. And yeah. So he's whatever.
Okay.
Basic.
So we'll get to see which one of these questions actually made it to the governor. And hopefully even the ones that didn't get selected as like the reader question, hopefully these were seen by the editorial board. I assume that they read through their own comments on their own blog.
Yeah.
And it probably reframed their discussion with him. So this should be interesting. So
Yeah.
we'll keep our eyes peeled.
Yeah, I will be interested to know how it goes.
Yeah.
Oh, and to continue on with people who are assholes. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. You know, we need better jobs. We need better infrastructure. We need more funding for schools. You know, even though we have the ACA now, it still has a lot of glitches. It could be a lot better. There's just a lot of stuff going on that we could be focused on as a country. And what this Congress wants to do under Paul Ryan, their first immediate priority is to have another vote to repeal Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act. It would also defund Planned Parenthood, which again would not defund abortion because we already don't pay for that.
Right.
But this is the people that are, I mean, they get the walk of shame. The Ohio delegation gets the walk of shame because they all voted, the Republican delegation.
The Republican members, yeah.
The Republican members of Congress from Ohio all voted, you know, in favor of this, which is not going to pass. They don't have enough votes to override a veto. And obviously the president is going to veto this. So this is a complete waste of time, waste of money. I mean, Jesus Christ. Like, can't they think of something? I'm like, can they really not think of something else to do?
Right. Priority number one.
Yeah. This that you've done like 50 times already.
Yeah.
Like nobody,
literally
50 times.
Oh.
If they like nobody cares about that. Nobody, you know, even Republicans who don't want Obamacare do not want them to keep voting to repeal it because it's already a settled issue and you're not going to repeal it. So stop. Like, what do you, they literally, and you know what this tells you? This tells you that they literally do not have any other ideas on how to run the country.
Yeah.
They don't have any ideas on how to create jobs. They don't have any ideas on how to better education. They don't have any ideas on what to do with our crumbling infrastructure. So this is what they're going to continue to do. Oh, okay. We know about Obamacare bad, abortion bad. So let's just keep doing this because we don't know shit about anything else. I mean, God, like seriously, I'm just like, why are you doing this? And why do they think that this is something that's going to like get them more votes or something? I don't understand. Like,
they get paid to behave this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They do.
They're taking our money and doing this.
And everybody really benefits because like if Democrats on a national level are also being paid to have no backbone, you know, they're sort of extremist contingency of Republican colleagues make them look better just by not acting or doing anything at all. You know, everybody is just too comfortable.
Yes, that's very true. They're all very too comfortable. I mean, that's why we have to shake it up, you know. You know, we passed issue 1 here in Ohio, but in a lot of states, which is why a lot of the state legislatures have, you know, Republican majority in the state legislature, the state Senate, and they have a Republican governor because it's been gerrymandered to death to make sure that people who would normally vote Democrats, votes don't matter and don't really get counted so that they can keep these safe seats. And then you keep these safe seats and you don't have to do anything except continue to do the crazy stuff that little small minority of people want you to do because they don't know any better. You're not doing anything for them. Their wages have
So anyway.
Hey, we're back. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties there. Randy's epic rant
Paul Ryan.
on the 61 votes against Obamacare
Yes.
blew out our soundboard momentarily.
Good.
But you were making some excellent points, and I think we'll wrap up this part of it by listing the walk of shame. Republican representatives Steve Shabbat, I'm just going to say the last names, Gibbs, Johnson, Jordan, Joyce, Latta, Renaci, I never know how to say his name, Stivers, Tiberi, Turner, and Wenstrup, all gentlemen Republican representatives of Ohio voted to try and end Obamacare and Planned Parenthood funding, which I don't understand how those things are actually related. Like in terms of healthcare funding, Obamacare isn't like a big fund that you give money to Planned Parenthood.
No.
It's to give people health insurance that they can take to the doctor of their choice.
Which, if you go to Planned Parenthood, you can use or not.
Right.
And do it income based.
Exactly.
And then the federal funding for Planned Parenthood is for federal programs like Title 10,
Right.
which would be devastating to cut because you just straight away be, slicing off people's access to their doctor.
I went to Planned Parenthood for the first time this week. It was great because, my primary OB had canceled on me. She couldn't get me and I needed to go. Like, I couldn't wait for her to book me another, and that was when I booked it. I called 3 weeks ago and they told me she couldn't get me until, 3 weeks. And then they canceled on me. So I was like, I can't wait another 2 or 3 weeks to go. And so I called them. I went the same day.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
That's why they're awesome.
I know.
So,
and I got free birth control.
Yep.
Nice.
Me too.
Thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
Voting against this awful bill were the Democrats, Tim Ryan, Joyce Beatty, Marcia Fudge, and Mary Kaptur.
Yay.
3 out of the 4 there were women. So I think that speaks to Ilyse's thing about a woman's places in the House, the White House, the House of Representatives.
Exactly. It should look like America, and it doesn't.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I think they always come up with this whole, you don't want any white men in office. Like, no, that's not what we're saying at all. And we're saying they're the House of Representatives. You should represent what the people look like. And right now, you don't at all.
Right. Yeah.
I'd be okay with fewer white men.
My first job in politics was working for Ryan McClin, who was state senator. She was the first African American female state senator in Ohio.
Cool.
And she said that it's not that she divided being female and being black, but she said, there was a number of black representatives and senators in the state legislature at the time.
Yeah.
So it was roughly equal to the percentage of those communities in Ohio. But she said there's nowhere near half the number of women in the state legislature.
Yeah. Because we all know that the guy who sponsored the bill here to defund Planned Parenthood was a black man. So just to say that you have men in there, whether they're black men or, men of color in general, doesn't mean that they're going to, be champions for you.
You're right.
Yeah.
So need more women in office.
Exactly.
And we could use an attorney general with some sense. Mike DeWine ended off the year in the news, and he's starting off the year in the news. First off, related to the Obamacare, he was part of several state attorneys general that tried to challenge Obamacare, saying that it was an unconstitutional tax, which I think is kind of ironic because that's what the Supreme Court said, is that it's a constitutional tax.
Yeah.
And so shockingly, DeWine lost his lawsuit against Obamacare.
And it's our money.
Right. Yeah. So this was stupid. It was a waste of Ohio taxpayer dollars, as is the other thing that Mike DeWine is in the news for this week. He's decided that he's not going to be pursuing Planned Parenthood anymore with the fetal disposal issue that he brought up at the end of the last year.
Exactly. Well, he already got his, little whatever political points that he was trying to, weasel out of it in the first place by going on, doing that press conference and saying everything that he said. And so now he's decided to drop it because he knows there is no case there. And he was just making stuff up to try to make them look bad.
Right.
But when the real story should have been that they weren't doing anything wrong.
Right.
But he tried it because they weren't doing anything wrong. He tried to turn it into something else.
Right.
And it's like he still never answered the question of, well, what is humane disposal? Well, how do hospitals do it? Like, none of those questions were answered. It was just, I'm going to throw this out there and say a bunch of incorrect terminology and to make them look bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So he got his bump. He's out.
Yeah.
There's, because of this mess that he created, now 3 bills in the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
So those representatives, I just thought of like the worst analogy. He got a bump. They're going to cut a line. It's like they're just completely addicted. Like these bills are just cocaine for legislators. They
could not help themselves. They really can't. That's hilarious. I think that was a perfect analogy.
Yeah. Now we should do the good old fashioned American thing. And since they're addicts, criminalize them and put them in jail.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one time I would fully support.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
So shame on Mike DeWine for his crap. A total waste of taxpayer dollars.
Mm-hmm.
He's an attorney general. He's supposed to be like the top cop. But he's just pursuing his own political agenda. Somebody said to our executive director, I think it was a reporter, so I'm not going to name names, but they said, you know what, this wasn't anything that had to do with being attorney general. He's running for governor.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to get his name in as many newspapers as he can to try and continue Kasich's political agenda.
Exactly.
He wants it to be DeWine's political agenda.
Yeah.
So
him and John Husted and whoever the lieutenant governor is now, who nobody knows her name, but yeah.
Mary Taylor.
Okay, you know her name.
It took me a minute.
I was like, she's not important enough to me to remember.
Anyway.
That's why we have Gabe.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So no segue here. Hey, Andy, how do you like my coffee mug?
That's what I assumed the segue was going to be, since you've been casually sipping the Women Have Options Ohio mug, Gabe. Gee, I think I'll talk about a new opportunity that just arrived. Okay, so for those who are unfamiliar, Women Have Options Ohio, or WHO, but nobody calls it WHO. It's just Women Have Options Ohio.
The Bowl-a-thon people.
Yeah, the Bowl-a-thon folks. So reproductive justice work in Ohio has been sort of managed by a handful of organizations. We have URGE, Unite for Reproductive and Gender Equity. We have New Voices Cleveland, who we work with at a coalition partnership level. And we have Women Have Options Ohio, which specifically works to address disparities in income when it comes to accessing abortion and reproductive health care services. So Women Have Options Ohio is a nonprofit that is in its 23rd year. It was founded in 1992. And
Wow.
they came to our attention most recently because they actually were just given a grant to hire their first paid full-time position, which is an executive director position, to advance the agenda of Women Have Options Ohio. And
That's
to try
awesome.
and to try and do more direct fundraising
So to
for.
be clear, they're an abortion fund that also organizes.
Well, now they have a bit more capacity to do so if they are able to hire an executive director, because they are an entirely volunteer-run nonprofit. A lot of folks up in Cleveland who are affiliated with Preterm and New Voices and NARAL and those communities that we share people with are affiliated with Women Have Options Ohio. People who work at Preterm are on the board and have been circulating this position because it's a really wonderful opportunity for somebody who's interested in nonprofit work and also interested in reproductive justice through a nonprofit lens, because access right now is one of the hardest parts of the TROP laws that we're seeing in Ohio that are curtailing abortion rights, abortion access, and closing clinics. You know, the poorer you are as a female trying to access abortion care, the less likely it is that you'll have access to a safe abortion. So this is an organization dedicated to removing that disparity whenever possible and providing funding for women who need the abortion care and can't afford it otherwise. And it's a desperately needed service in Ohio, and we are very excited for them to be able to hire somebody full-time to advance the agenda in Ohio specifically, where access is desperately sought increasingly more. So if you would like to apply for this position, go to womenhaveoptions.org, and they will have an application and a PDF with the job description for you. And we encourage anyone from our networks who is interested and passionate about this subject to apply and to get involved with Women Have Options Ohio. And now that they're on a sort of rising star, it'll be exciting to see what they can pull out of this new capacity. So if you're interested, again, womenhaveoptions.org, and check out Women Have Options Ohio on Facebook.
Awesome.
Yay.
Yeah.
And now we're moving on to our last segment.
Let's get it on. We did not rehearse that at all. Nobody can tell. I'm
like
sure.
Marvin Gaye sings it.
I was just singing that last
Get
night
it on. Oh, you were?
in a personal situation.
I love you, Annie. Okay.
It's because I'm so romantic.
You are so romantic. You know, I love listening to music.
Cornier than the Green Revolution.
Oh, yes. Anyways,
Dork.
so coming up, we have the Capital Care fundraiser happening on February 13th. Do you want to talk more about that, Annie?
Yes. So for anybody in the Toledo area, we did a Capital Care Network fundraiser that was hosted through Now Cleveland through Anita Rios, and it was hosted at People Called Women Bookstore, which is the only women-owned bookstore left in Ohio, period. And we
Are you serious?
I'm serious, yeah. The women-owned bookstores are a sadly fading legacy in our sort of like queer and feminist organizing history of the 21st, 20th,
There's a
20th
wonderful
century.
feminist queer bookstore in Atlanta in Little Five Points. If you're ever down there,
You'll have to take me.
yes, it's in, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's in the Little Five Points neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful, wonderful feminist bookstore. But
Yeah.
anyway.
So the sad part about People Called Women in Toledo is that they are just out in the middle of nowhere. They're not very easily accessible, especially because a lot of people in Toledo are poor, and not all of them have cars. And, you know, if I'm trying to organize a function, I usually end up having to coordinate a few carpools so that we can get bodies to these events. So I specifically started working with a couple volunteers who do not have car access, and we picked a more central location. The gallery, the delightful D's Art Gallery, which is in the Davis Building in Toledo. We will have a plug for the event when we're getting closer to the date. It'll be February the 13th, a Saturday. It's going to be a complex event because we have a lot of volunteers in the Toledo area with varying levels of means. So it's going to be a poetry slam and open mic night because Toledoans love those. There is a huge...
I love it.
I don't know. In Cleveland, they're always sparsely attended, but in Toledo, it's like the whole scene is what, you know, the poets who live there make of it. And so they always do open mic nights and stuff. So people have an opportunity to share their work with the community. And there's folks who do sort of like weird puppet stuff like me, and people who get into all sorts of performance art. And so we're going to have kind of like a hodgepodge of acts and things. And so if people are coming with an act, then that's their sort of payment to the fundraiser. And we're going to charge admission, suggested donation between $5 to $10 for those who did not bring an act. And if people are gun shy about singing or doing poetry or anything like that, they could maybe bring a dish to share. And we're going to do sort of like a community potluck as well, so that every volunteer who wants to come and be part of it will have something to contribute. And if not, they can shell, you know, like an affordable amount of money. And it'll be more accessible. It'll be downtown in the Davis Building, which is on, I will have to look up the exact address, but it's right by the Greyhound station on North Michigan.
What's it called?
The Davis Building, and then it is These Delightful Arts with D is the gallery, and it's the same gallery that hosted the Planned Parenthood Art of Prevention fundraiser. It's a sort of multi-use space. It's not just a gallery, but it's also a restaurant called Pam's Corners, which ended up buying my condom art sculpture at the Planned Parenthood fundraiser. Yeah, it was my first piece of art I ever sold. So now that's at the restaurant as well. But there's a handful of like small studios and businesses and stuff in the building too. It used to house the Green Party. And now it is mostly a gallery that's accessible for community and local artists. So I will have details sent to Gabe, and we can send it to the email list and post it on the NARAL page to promote it.
The Davis building is 151 North Michigan Street,
Yes.
Toledo, Ohio 43604, and that event is on February 13th.
Yes.
Fundraiser for Capital Care.
Yes. And we'll also be doing a phone bank before then. We just need to figure out which location is going to be. So nice to accommodate all us phone bankers, and we're going to be doing a potluck as well. So if you are interested in being part of our Toledo local actions, we have a specific Facebook page comprised of community members in the area called Keep Abortion Safe and Legal in Toledo. And anytime I'm planning a community action or event, I post an event to that page, and I will also send it to Gabe so that he can promote it on the NARAL page as well. So when we have our location, we're going to be doing a phone bank in about 2 weeks, so I can get you guys the details, and follow our NARAL page to learn more.
And people who want information can reach you at volunteer@prochoiceohio.org.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yes. Oh, and next Wednesday in Cleveland, we're having our Stitch and Bitch with the Pro-Choice Feminists knitting circle.
Oh my God.
The
I
Feminists.
love it. I'm super jealous.
You should start one here.
I know.
You don't have to
start
knit.
one here. I don't know how to knit at all.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally okay. I went last time we met. It was on the east side of Cleveland. We change every month by month. We go west side, east side, west side. And it was the east side, and it was the night before the Marco Rubio protest last month. And so instead of knitting or anything, I was painting a sign that said "Rapists for Rubio" and stuff. So it was cool. Just at the bar, making that sign and knitting. And I issue a monthly activist challenge now. And so I do like a canvassing challenge or a letter writing challenge every month, so that everybody who comes can get plugged into the work that NARAL's doing specifically, and sort of pushed out of their comfort zone a little into taking a stand for choice. So next Wednesday at 7 at Guide to Culture, which is on Detroit and 58th, we will be congregating and doing our usual knitting and sort of like catching up about the news and everything that's been going on with NARAL for the past month. And if you're interested, again, volunteer at prochoiceohio.org, and I will put you on our specific knitting club email list so you can be updated when we're meeting month by month, because we've been changing to accommodate people who live like on the way west side and the way east side, because everybody in Cleveland lives very far away from each other.
Yeah.
Right.
So
this is on January 13th, next Wednesday. We'll put all the information for these in the show notes for the podcast. We'll put them in chronological order.
Oh, yes.
What else we got going on?
Gabe likes it that way for some reasons.
So here in Columbus, we're going to be having our trans health panel that our awesome interns have been working on for the past few months.
Nice.
And so it's happening next Thursday, January 14th. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to noon on OSU's campus. I don't remember the name of the building, but it's going to be, we're going to make a Facebook event. It'll be on our page. We're going to send out blast emails so everyone will know about it. But that's happening next Thursday. We have some really awesome speakers coming, some doctors, some med students, just to talk about, I came up with the idea because of a conference that Annie and I went to last year, Take Root, and they had a trans health panel. And it was just a lot of stuff that, you don't think about if you're not a transgender person, because you don't have to. And so it was really eye-opening for me. So I thought that would be something really good, we could do here, because also I had a volunteer ask me, what are we gonna do, more with the trans community. And I was like, well, what should we do? So this is a good start, to try to bridge that gap. And also, we're going to be having our third Women of Color Repro Freedom Happy Hour Thursday, January 21st and also location TBD. But the time is the same, 5:30 to 8, Thursday, January 21st, and I'll be letting you know the location. And we're super excited. The plan is to write a letter to the editor to send in for February for Black History Month.
Nice.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Woo woo.
We all set?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's get it on.
Let's get it on.
We'll see everybody next week.
Okay.
going
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.